Hi, my name's Sam Wood and welcome to today's tutorial explaining the steps used to develop a task and user analysis using a contextual inquiry. This example contextual inquiry will be carried out based on users inputting a number into 4 keypad layouts. So before we begin, I'll just run through the steps used to carry out this experiment. So firstly, we're going to talk about the what the test involves and what is actually being tested. This will be followed by the who, which users will be tested and where they're from and their backgrounds, etc. We'll then move on to the how the experiment's carried out and how we will analyse the data and how the user has actually performed. This will be followed by the inconsistencies. These will come from our observations and the results gathered. And finally, we can use the information gathered to develop a persona of a typical user that would use the user interface. So let's now look a little bit more into these steps. So firstly, we'll talk about the what. So what actually is the test going to be about? So the test is going to involve users inputting a given number into keypads of a smartphone application. The number is actually going to be put into 4 different screens with 4 different keypad layouts. Here we can see these layouts. So the first one represents a typical keypad layout that you would find on any smartphone. The second shows the numbers vertically. We then have a keypad which is commonly seen on calculators or on keypads on a keyboard. And finally the fourth layout will be the numbers but just displayed in a backward format. So the test is actually going to test what impact each keypad layout has on entering a number based on the time it takes them to enter it. And we're going to make observations based on what the users asked and how they've reacted to the test, and their body language and their mood, etc. And then what we use is the user feedback, both qualitative or based on their observations and quantitative based on the time and accuracy of the results. So next we'll look at the who, what users are actually going to be tested. So the users will all be members or people associated with Southampton Solent University. This can include students, whether they're international, part-time, full-time, lecturers, staff, such as cleaners, technicians, maintenance, and also visitors and guests. Within the users that are going to be tested, there's also going to be various variables that need to be written and observed and taken into consideration when we gather our results. This can include things such as age, what gender, their area of study or their expertise, what previous knowledge they'll have, whether they have a smartphone or not, their language, their ethnicity or religion, and also what sort of personality they are. So the next step in the process is to look at the how. So the how is going to describe the method for how the test is going to be carried out on our selected user group, which we've just identified in the who part of the experiment. During the user testing, we're going to also analyse how the users performed by observing the different characteristics and factors that they may have demonstrated. I'll demonstrate this in the next slide. So for this example, the first step is to select a winning participant and to hand them over a smartphone. Instructions will then be given to them both verbally and on screen, so they know exactly what they will need to be doing. Then through the mobile app, they'll be presented with an 11-digit phone number which they'll need to type in. The same number is going to be used throughout the whole experiment, so they'll need to input the same 11-digit number into each of the 4 different keypad layouts. So on each layout, the timer will begin with the input of the first number and it's going to end on the last. The data, both the time and accuracy of how they've typed in the number, will be recorded in the app's back end. And then finally, the user will be thanked for taking part and the process repeated on a different user. This will be done until enough users will have been tested to give a wide range of results. This is typically going to be upward of around 50 different users.